Hello and welcome. So this is my first walk out since my recent failure to complete the 109 mile Cleveland Way. And anyone who watched those videos, I did say that when the dust had settled and my shin had started to recover, that I would do a bit of a reflections video. I'm actually going to do a two-parter. This first part is purely focused on why I think my Cleveland Way attempt failed. Lots of things that have crossed my mind since I did the walk, but I've tried to narrow it down to 5 things. The second part, which will hopefully follow in a week or so, I will purely focus that on the Cleveland Way in general, because despite not completing it, I had an amazing time. So I want to reflect that in a video also. So I hope you enjoy this one. Hope it helps anybody else who's thinking of undertaking a long distance trail. So here we go. 5 reasons why I think my Cleveland Way attempt failed and what I'd have done differently if I had my time again. So reason number 1, I think, was I tried to cover too much distance too soon. So despite all the training I did, and I did a lot, you know, I've kind of built up to it for 3 months, what I realised is you can't replicate 6 20-mile plus days until you actually do the trail. And looking back, the decision I made to cover 46 of the 109 miles in the first 2 days over some very challenging terrain, particularly on the second day, was a mistake. I did that because the moorland section of the Cleveland Way, there are very few places where you can stop along the way if you're not camping. But looking back, what I should have done should have been to ease myself into the walk. A little bit more research and planning, I'd have realised that some of the accommodation providers in Helmsley, where the walk starts from, offer to pick you up part way during the first day. So I could have done, I don't know, 12-13 miles on the first day, gone back, been dropped back off at the same point the following day, just to cut down that first day. That may have eased me into the walk. So that's the first thing I'd do differently. Start off with some slightly shorter days, get the body used to the load, and then start to increase the mileage, perhaps from days 2 onwards. So going too hard, too fast, not a good idea. I think the primary reason why my shin started to develop problems. Right, so reason number 2 was a failure to use walking poles from the start. I said in the video on the second day that my wife, the voice of reason, did say, use your walking poles throughout, you're covering long distances. But I knew best. I very rarely use walking poles unless I'm undertaking tricky descents. But actually, when I started to use them from the second day, or the late part of day 1, they made a massive difference. See, I was carrying a heavier pack than I would normally on a day walk. And I think, in fact I'm fairly certain, that not using walking poles from the start, day 1 in particular, there was a lot of hard paths to walk on. That extra impact on the shin and the joints in general, I think, caused some of the shin problems. So my second thing I would do differently, absolutely without doubt, lesson learned, and I will do it from now on in, use walking poles from the start. They really do make a difference. I should have listened to my wife. So reason number 3 for my failure to complete, I think, was not listening to the warning signs. About 16 miles into day 1, I felt a little bit of discomfort in the shin. Just put it down to a long day. and that's when I decided to use the walking poles. But actually there were things that I could have done when I got back to the accommodation that evening. For example, I could have asked the owner if he'd got some ice, so I could have iced the shin. There were certain stretches that I could have done. Foolishly, I forgot to take some ibuprofen with me on the journey. I had paracetamol, but as we know, ibuprofen provides an anti-inflammatory. So failing to properly look after what was starting to become an injury from day one was a big cock up. Definitely something I'd do differently. Had some quite good advice since around considering the use of little foam rollers, using the walking poles to run up and down the shin stretches. There's all sorts of things that I could have done that I didn't do, and who knows, had I done them, that may have nipped those shin problems in the bud and I may have been able to complete the walk. So that's number 3. Look after an injury before it starts to develop into something worse. So number 4, I'm still not sure about number 4, but I've chosen it, and I'll be interested in people's views in the comments on number 4. And that's about the choice of footwear. I made a decision before I started the walk that I was going to use trail shoes or trail running shoes, and the reason for that is they're extremely lightweight, and despite them being waterproof, they do dry out very quickly when they get wet. But in hindsight, I do wonder whether a more supportive pair of boots that are probably better designed for heavier pack weights would have made a difference. I mean, my trail shoes were absolutely fantastic. You know, they're good quality. I paid quite a lot of money for them. They're supremely comfortable. Never had blisters when wearing them before, and that's the reason why I chose to use them. But when I looked on the Arc'teryx website when I got home, which is where I bought them from, I realised that they're kind of primarily designed for fast and light hiking, not really designed for when you're carrying heavier pack. And although I wasn't camping, the pack was still a lot heavier than what I normally would carry, mainly because of the amount of water I had to carry, and obviously the food and extra clothing, because I was doing long days. So still not 100% sure on this one, but you know, I do wonder whether my footwear was a contributor to some of the shin problems that I developed. So undecided on that one. It's something that's definitely food for thought going forward about what type of footwear I use when I'm doing my next long distance multi-day hike. Well, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think that could have contributed to the problems wearing extremely lightweight trail running shoes? So reason number 5 that I've chosen is I think I failed to properly toughen the body up for the exertions that lay ahead. And what I mean by that is, despite me doing a lot of walking beforehand, I do a lot of road running, and I think I'd built up a very good level of fitness. What I hadn't done was focused any time on strengthening key muscle groups in the legs, so like my calves, my thighs, even the muscles around my shins. There are probably things that I could have done either at the gym or at home to build some extra strength around those muscle areas. And having listened to a few other people and read a little bit when I got back, that people who've prepared for long distance hikes, that's a lot of advice that people have given, is really build some of those core muscle groups. You know, every day I was probably walking between 8 and 10 hours, It's a long time to spend on the leg, a lot of impact. And that's something I'm going to start doing now, not just wait until my next long distance hike. I'm going to start to build the muscles in my legs, just to give me that extra strength and core stability. So there we have it, the main 5 reasons why I feel my first attempts to long distance multi-day hike were unsuccessful. So I hope you found that video interesting, particularly if you're considering doing your first multi-day hike. Only time will tell whether the things I do differently when I put them into practice in the future, whether they will make a difference or not. Let me know in the comments below if you've completed your own multi-day hike successfully. What things did you do that helped you complete? How did you prepare and train the body for the rigours that lie ahead? Definitely keen to take as much advice as possible because I want the next one to be successful. So as I mentioned at the start, there'll be a link in the description to the playlist of my attempt to walk the Cleveland Way. There's 5 videos in there and I hope you found them of interest. And also, if you want to watch part 2, where I'll talk in a lot more detail about the Cleveland Way in general and my findings of that trail, if it's one that you're looking to walk, so please consider subscribing to the channel. That video should go on hopefully in the next week or so, as soon as I get a chance to do it. But thank you for watching. Thanks to everyone who watched the Cleveland Way videos and supported me along the way. Thank you.